Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless if you're here for it. Hit subscribe and let's go.
My phone buzzed at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Dad's text was short, direct, and exactly what I'd expected for the past 9 years. Family dinner tonight. Time to stop playing sick. I stared at the message while my heart monitor beeped steadily beside my desk. The small device tracked every irregular beat, every arrhythmia, every moment my damaged heart struggled to maintain normal rhythm. It had become background noise in my life. Like breathing, like existing. Mom's text arrived 30 seconds later. Your cousin Jessica works 2 full-time jobs and never complains. It's Dad's 65th birthday. Be there at 6. Dress nicely. I said nothing. I'd learned years ago that responding only gave them ammunition. My apartment was quiet except for the hum of the air purifier I needed to prevent respiratory complications. Medication bottles lined my kitchen counter in careful rows. Beta blockers, AV inhibitors, anticoagulants, diuretics. Each one kept me alive. Each one my family believed was proof of weakness. I picked up my phone and called the one person who understood. Dr. Chen's office, the receptionist answered. Hi Sarah. It's Emma Richardson. Is Dr. Chen available? She's in surgery, but she left instructions that you can always reach her. Is everything okay? My family's having a birthday dinner tonight. They've been texting about me playing sick again. There was a pause. Sarah had worked for Dr. Chen for 12 years. She knew my file. She knew my family's history of medical denial. Where's the dinner? Marcello's. The Italian place on 5th. I'll let Dr. Chen know. She had a late reservation there tonight anyway. She'll keep an eye out. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the familiar exhaustion of having to prove my illness existed. Again. I was 19 when my heart first failed. It happened during my sophomore year of college. I'd been studying for finals, pulling all-nighters like every other student. Then one morning I woke up and couldn't breathe. My roommate found me blue-lipped and unconscious on our dorm room floor. The ambulance arrived within 6 minutes. They shocked me twice before my heart found rhythm again. The diagnosis came 3 days later. Dilated cardiomyopathy with severe left ventricular dysfunction. My ejection fraction, the measure of how much blood my heart pumps with each beat, was 25%. Normal is 55 to 70%. Mine was failing. Dr. Sarah Chin, chief of cardiology at Presbyterian Hospital, took my case personally. She was direct, brilliant, and refused to sugarcoat anything. Your heart is enlarged and weak, she'd explained, pulling up my echocardiogram images. We don't know why it happened. Sometimes it's viral, sometimes genetic, sometimes idiopathic. But here's what we do know. Without strict medication compliance, careful monitoring, and significant lifestyle modifications, you're looking at heart failure, transplant, or death within 5 years. I was 19. I'd never been sick a day in my life. My family's reaction was immediate and brutal. You're too young to have heart problems, Dad had said in my hospital room, arms crossed. The doctors are being overly cautious. You probably just had an anxiety attack. Mom nodded. Your cousin Amanda had panic attacks in college too. She just needed to stop being so dramatic. My brother Marcus smirked. Convenient timing right before finals. Sounds like someone wanted attention. Dr. Chin had been standing in the doorway. She'd stepped forward, her voice ice cold. Mr. Richardson, your daughter's heart is functioning at less than half capacity. This isn't anxiety. This isn't stress. This is a life-threatening cardiac condition that requires immediate intervention and lifelong management. Dad had waved her off. Doctors always exaggerate. It's about billing. That was 9 years ago. In those 9 years I'd been hospitalized 14 times. I'd had 3 cardiac catheterizations, 2 cardioversions, and came within hours of needing an emergency transplant once. I wore a life vest, an external defibrillator, for 6 months. I'd collapsed in public more times than I could count. And through it all my family insisted I was faking. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was what I'd built despite my illness. I couldn't work traditional jobs. Standing for 8 hours was impossible. Physical labor could kill me. Even desk jobs were risky when stress could trigger arrhythmias that required emergency intervention. So I'd gotten creative. During my hospital stays, I'd started a medical advocacy blog. I wrote about navigating insurance denials, finding specialists, managing medication costs, living with invisible illness. It resonated with people who felt unheard by the healthcare system. Within a year, I had 50,000 followers. Within 3 years, major patient advocacy organizations were asking me to consult on their campaigns. By year 5, I'd written a book, The Patient's Voice, Navigating Chronic Illness in a System That Doesn't Believe You. It hit the New York Times bestseller list. I'd been invited to speak at medical conferences, hospital systems, and pharmaceutical companies about patient-centered care. Last year, I'd founded the Richardson Foundation, a nonprofit that provided financial assistance to chronic illness patients facing medical bankruptcy. We'd raised $3.2 million and helped 847 families. I made a comfortable living through speaking fees, consulting, and book royalties. I had excellent health insurance. I lived independently in an accessible apartment. But to my family, I was just sick Emma, who couldn't hold a real job. I'd stopped trying to correct them. The divide had grown too wide. They saw what they wanted to see, a daughter who disappointed them by being weak. What I'd learned over 9 years: you can't force people to see your worth when they're committed to your failure. I arrived at Marcello's at 6:02 p.m. My medication case was in my purse. I took doses at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. without fail. Miss even one dose and my heart rhythm destabilized. The restaurant was elegant but casual, with warm lighting and the smell of garlic and fresh bread. I spotted my family immediately at a large corner table. Dad saw me and his expression soured. I walked over carefully. I'd learned to pace myself too fast and my heart rate spiked dangerously. I looked healthy to people who didn't know better. That was part of the problem. You made it, Mom said, her tone suggesting I'd inconvenienced everyone. We'd almost given up on you. Happy birthday, Dad, I said quietly, setting down the card I'd brought. He didn't open it. You're wearing jeans to my birthday dinner? I was wearing dark jeans and a nice blouse, the stretchiest, most comfortable clothing I owned that still looked presentable. Anything with a tight waistband compressed my chest and made breathing harder. I'm sorry. This was the most appropriate thing I had that I could breathe in. Marcus laughed. Still making excuses. Some things never change. My cousin Jessica, the one who apparently worked 2 jobs without complaining, looked uncomfortable. Maybe we could just order? Good idea, Dad said. Emma, you're sitting at the end. We don't want you disrupting conversation with your medical needs. I took the indicated seat without argument. Dr. Chin had texted that she was at the restaurant but at a different table. I spotted her across the dining room. She'd positioned herself where she could see our table clearly. She gave me a subtle nod. Dinner started badly and deteriorated. Dad ordered wine for everyone. When I asked for water instead, he sighed loudly. Of course. Can't even have 1 glass of wine to celebrate your father's birthday. Alcohol interferes with my heart medication, I said quietly. Everything interferes with something according to you, Mom interjected. Jessica, tell Emma about your new promotion. Jessica shifted uncomfortably. I just made assistant manager at 2 jobs, Mom emphasized. 2 jobs, and she's never called in sick once. Not once. The implication hung heavy. Unlike you. I checked my watch. 6:28 p.m. I needed to take my medication at 6:30. I pulled out my pill case discreetly. Dad's hand slammed on the table. Are you seriously taking those pills at the dinner table? At my birthday dinner. I take them at the same time every day. It's 6:30. If I miss the window, my heart rhythm. Enough. Dad's voice was sharp enough that nearby tables turned to look. I'm tired of the pill routine. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of you using your so-called illness to get out of living like a normal person. My heart rate spiked. I could feel it, the irregular flutter, the skip, the way my pulse hammered unevenly in my chest. Dad, I need to take these. He reached across the table and grabbed my pill case. No. Not tonight. Tonight we're having one normal family dinner without your dramatics. Give them back. My voice was steadier than I felt. You don't need them. You've been milking this heart thing for 9 years. He stood up, walked to the nearby server station and threw my medication bottles into the trash bin. The restaurant went quiet. I couldn't breathe. Not from panic. from the fact that my heart was already responding to the stress and missing medication. I could feel the arrhythmia starting, the dangerous rhythm that required immediate intervention. That's better, Dad said, sitting back down. Now we can have a normal evening. Mom smiled approvingly. Tough love. It's what you need. Marcus raised his wine glass to Dad for finally putting his foot down. I stood up on shaking legs. I needed to get to my car, to my emergency medication, to my phone to call Dr. Chen. That's when I heard her voice. Excuse me. Dr. Sarah Chen stood from her table across the restaurant. She was 53 years old, 5'4", and commanded absolute authority in every room she entered. Tonight she wore an elegant navy dress with her hospital ID still clipped to her purse. She walked directly to our table. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief of Cardiology at Presbyterian Hospital. I've treated your daughter's severe heart condition for 9 years. Dad's face flushed. This is a private family dinner. What you just did, hiding her medication, is criminal neglect of a disabled person. Dr. Chen's voice was cold and clear. Every word carried through the quiet restaurant. That medication prevents life-threatening arrhythmias, stroke, and sudden cardiac death. She pulled out her phone and held up my medical chart. She'd accessed it from the hospital database. Emma Richardson, age 28. Dilated cardiomyopathy with an ejection fraction of 28%. That means her heart pumps at roughly half the capacity of a healthy person her age. She takes 7 medications 4 times daily to keep her heart beating in a survivable rhythm. Mom's mouth opened. But she looks fine. Invisible illness, Mrs. Richardson. Just because you can't see her damaged heart muscle doesn't mean it isn't failing. Dr. Chen turned to Dad. The medications you just threw away? Beta blockers to control her heart rate. ACE inhibitors to reduce strain on her heart. Anticoagulants to prevent the blood clots that form when her heart doesn't pump efficiently. Diuretics to prevent the fluid buildup that would drown her lungs from the inside. She's exaggerating, Marcus said weakly. Dr. Chen pulled up another image on her phone, an echocardiogram showing my enlarged, weakly contracting heart. Does this look like exaggeration? This is from her last cardiac imaging 3 weeks ago. Her left ventricle is severely dilated. Her mitral valve has moderate regurgitation. She's in atrial fibrillation roughly 40% of the time despite maximum medication. The restaurant manager approached nervously. Dr. Chen held up one hand. Call 911. This patient needs immediate cardiac monitoring after missing her scheduled medication dose and experiencing significant stress. Also call hospital security. I'm a mandated reporter and I'm reporting this incident to Adult Protective Services. Dad's face went from red to pale. Now wait just a minute. You threw away medication that keeps your daughter alive. You've been psychologically abusing her for 9 years, telling her that her documented, severe cardiac condition is fake. Dr. Chen's voice cut like a scalpel. Emma has been hospitalized 14 times. She's nearly died twice. She requires ongoing specialist care that costs over $180,000 annually in medical expenses. She doesn't work, Mom protested. She just stays home. She's disabled. Medically disabled. She can't work traditional employment because physical exertion could kill her. Dr. Chen turned to me. Emma, where's your emergency medication? Car, I managed. My heart was hammering irregularly now, that dangerous flutter I knew too well. Dr. Chen turned to the manager. Call 911 now. She's going into AFib. The manager ran for the phone. Jessica stood up, her face horrified. Uncle Robert, what have you done? Dr. Chen retrieved my medication bottles from the trash. Thankfully the trash bin had only paper napkins in it. She opened the beta blocker bottle and handed me my dose with her water glass. Take this now. I did, hands shaking. Paramedics arrived within 8 minutes. They immediately hooked me to a portable EKG. The reading showed exactly what I'd felt. Atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular response. My heart rate was 187 beats per minute and completely irregular. We need to transport, the lead paramedic said. Ma'am, have you been under significant stress? Before I could answer, Dr. Chen stepped forward with her phone. I witnessed the entire incident. Her father deliberately hid her cardiac medication and caused significant emotional distress. I have his actions on video. I hadn't even seen her recording. The paramedic's expression hardened. Sir, you're going to need to come to the hospital and speak with the social work team. I'm not going anywhere, Dad said. This is ridiculous. She's fine. She's an AFib at 187, the paramedic said flatly. If this doesn't convert in the next 30 minutes, she'll need cardioversion. That's electric shocks to restart her heart. Does that sound fine to you? The restaurant had gone completely silent. Other diners were recording on their phones. As they loaded me onto the gurney, Dr. Chin leaned close. I've got you, Emma. And I'm pressing charges. The ambulance ride was a blur of monitoring equipment and 4 lines. They pushed adenosine to try to convert my rhythm. It felt like my heart stopped completely for 3 seconds before racing again. It didn't work. At the hospital they prepped me for cardioversion. I'd been through it twice before. They sedate you, deliver controlled electric shocks to reset your heart rhythm and hope it works. I woke up in the cardiac unit 2 hours later with a normal rhythm and Dr. Chin sitting beside my bed, typing on her laptop. Welcome back, she said. You converted on the second shock. You're stable. Pi family is currently speaking with hospital security, social work, and 2 police officers. Dr. Chin closed her laptop. Emma, I've been documenting your family's medical abuse for 9 years. Every time you've told me they don't believe your diagnosis. Every hospitalization they've skipped. Every birthday they've blamed you for ruining. It's all in your medical record as psychosocial factors affecting your health. You recorded them. I did. I was having dinner with my wife when I saw your family arrive. I positioned myself where I could intervene if needed. She pulled up the video on her phone. This clearly shows your father throwing away your medication after you requested it. That's assault on a disabled person and criminal neglect. He didn't mean. Emma. Stop protecting them. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. Your father deliberately prevented you from taking life-saving medication. You went into a dangerous arrhythmia that required emergency cardioversion. This isn't a family disagreement. This is a crime. A police officer knocked and entered. He was mid-40s with kind eyes. Ms. Richardson, I'm Officer Martinez. I need to take your statement about tonight's incident. I told him everything. The years of denial, tonight's confrontation, Dad throwing away my medication. Dr. Chen's video corroborates your account, Officer Martinez said. We're filing charges for assault on a disabled person and reckless endangerment. The district attorney will decide whether to prosecute. My dad could go to jail? Yes, Officer Martinez said simply. What he did could have killed you. After he left, Dr. Chen pulled up a chair. I need to tell you something. Your medical records tell only part of your story. I looked you up after your family left the restaurant. She turned her laptop screen toward me. It showed my author website, my foundation, the Forbes article that had called me a rising voice in patient advocacy. Why didn't you tell them? She asked. Because they wouldn't believe that either, I said quietly. To them, if I'm sick, I can't be successful. The two can't coexist in their minds. So I stopped trying to prove anything. Dr. Chin nodded slowly. I'm testifying at the hearing. I'm bringing 9 years of medical records. And I'm calling every medical conference that's had you speak to provide character statements. Your family is going to learn exactly who you are. The preliminary hearing happened 3 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom in my nicest dress with my medication case in my purse and my heart monitor under my blouse. Dr. Chin sat in the witness section with a thick folder of medical records. Dad's attorney tried to argue it was a family misunderstanding. Then Dr. Chin took the stand. For 45 minutes, she methodically presented my medical history. She showed echocardiogram images, EKG strips, hospitalization records. She read aloud notes from my chart documenting my family's refusal to accept my diagnosis. In 9 years of treating Ms. Richardson, her family has attended 0 cardiology appointments. They've visited her in the hospital twice out of 14 admissions. They've consistently told her that her documented heart failure is in her head or for attention. Dr. Chen's voice was clinical and devastating. The night of the incident, Mr. Richardson didn't just hide medication. He deliberately prevented his daughter from taking drugs that prevent sudden cardiac death. His actions directly caused a life-threatening arrhythmia. He played the video. The courtroom watched my father throw away my medication. Watched him refuse to return it. Watched me struggle to breathe while my family toasted his birthday. The judge's expression hardened. Then the prosecutor called me to the stand. Ms. Richardson, can you explain to the court what happens if you miss your medication? I'd prepared for this. Within 2 to 4 hours my heart rhythm destabilizes. I develop atrial fibrillation, where the upper chambers of my heart quiver instead of beating properly. If that continues, blood clots can form. Those clots can travel to my brain and cause a stroke. The irregular rhythm can also trigger ventricular tachycardia, which is immediately life-threatening. And missing one dose can cause this? Yes. My cardiologist describes it as walking a tightrope. The medication keeps me balanced. Missing doses means falling. What would you like to say to your father? I looked at Dad. He was staring at the table, his attorney whispering urgently. I wanted you to believe me, I said quietly. For 9 years I wanted you to believe that I was sick, that I was trying my best, that I didn't choose this. But you were so committed to thinking I was weak that you never saw what I actually built. The prosecutor introduced evidence I'd provided. Copies of my book, my speaking engagements, the foundation's annual report showing $3.2 million raised. Ms. Richardson has been named to Forbes 30 Under 30 for healthcare. She's spoken at the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, and the NIH about patient-centered care. She's built a nonprofit that's helped nearly 1,000 families facing medical bankruptcy. The prosecutor looked at Dad. All while managing a condition that could kill her any day. Mom started crying in the gallery. The judge set bail conditions. Dad couldn't contact me, couldn't come within 500 feet of me, and had to complete a family violence intervention program. The assault charges would move forward to trial. 6 months later, I stood at a podium at the American Heart Association's annual conference. Dr. Chin had invited me to speak on a panel about invisible illness and family dynamics. Having a chronic illness doesn't mean you can't build a meaningful life, I told the audience of 400 cardiologists, nurses, and patient advocates. It means you build differently. I can't work 60-hour weeks. I can't climb mountains. I can't do many things healthy people take for granted. I clicked to the next slide, a photo of my foundation's team distributing medical bill assistance checks. But I can use my experience to help others. I can write. I can speak. I can advocate. And I can build something that matters. After the panel, Dr. Chin found me in the hallway. Your father's attorney reached out. He wants to settle. Completion of the intervention program, formal apology, and no contact unless you initiate it. What do you think? I think, Dr. Chin said carefully, that you've spent 9 years trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. The question is whether you still need their validation. I thought about it. No. I don't. Then accept the settlement. Move forward. Keep building. That night, I updated my foundation's website with photos from the conference. My phone buzzed. An email from a woman whose daughter had just been diagnosed with the same condition I had. Your book saved us, she wrote. Our family believes her now. Thank you for sharing your story. I smiled and started typing a response. My heart monitor beeped its steady rhythm beside me. The medication bottles sat in their careful rows. My body was still broken in ways that would never fully heal. But I'd built something stronger than a perfect heart. A life that mattered, success on my own terms, and the absolute certainty that I didn't need anyone's permission to exist exactly as I was. Dad's face going pale at that restaurant table wasn't the victory. This was.